It is road trip time again. This is the part of the podcast where we take a little trip to one of the hundreds and hundreds of amazing places that New England has to offer. And I'll tell you, I love doing these. I love sharing places, especially ones that I've been to a lot and that I really enjoy, because it's so exciting, because I can just imagine somebody listening to this podcast and hearing about a place and then going there because I recommended it. When I started my In My Footsteps travel blog in 2010, I went to a couple hundred cities and towns, and I enjoyed all of them. Now, granted, on varying levels. So some of the places that I share on the podcast, you can tell when I really, really love the place I'm talking about. So get ready, because we're about to travel 30 miles off the coast of Cape Cod to Nantucket Island, a throwback to 18th century, 19th century whaling, and it's incredible. This is going to be part one of 3 parts. They won't all be in a row, but there's no way I could cover all of Nantucket Island in one segment. So the easiest way to get to Nantucket is via the Steamship Authority ferry, which usually you leave from Hyannis. The regular ferry is, I think, 2 hours and 10 minutes. There's a fast ferry that takes an hour. You can fly over there. There is the Nantucket Memorial Airport in the center of the island, but the ferry is the most common. And when you take the ferry over there, you dock right at downtown. The first thing you see before you get to downtown is Brandt Lighthouse, which is one of the most well-known lighthouses in the country, I would say. Maybe I'm being biased. So it's located at the tip of Brandt Point. There are 2 other replicas of this lighthouse in Mystic, Connecticut, and one in the inner harbor of Hyannis. So the irony is, if you're going to Nantucket, you could actually see this same lighthouse at the beginning and the end. This Brandt Point that's there now is the second station, I guess you could say. The original Brandt Point Lighthouse is 47 feet tall, and it still stands. But because of the shifting sands, it was located far from the entrance to the harbor now, so they had to build a new Brandt Point Lighthouse. All of the places I'm going to talk about in this segment about Nantucket, you can walk to them from downtown. That's why I lumped them all together. When you get to Nantucket and you get off the ferry, the first thing you'll notice if you go to Main Street, it's the incredible cobblestones that just give it this awesome vibe. It looks like you're back in the 1800s. So Main Street was paved, they believe, around 1837, with legend having it that the stones came down from Gloucester specifically for these streets. Drive slow if you're going over these cobblestones. It's bumpy. It's even worse if you bring a bike, like I've done several times, because you've got to ride on the street. They don't like you riding on the sidewalk on Main Street. At the beginning of Main Street is the Lieutenant Max Wagner fountain, and it actually just returned to this spot just last month, March of 2021, because a year earlier in March of 2020, it was struck by a motorist and nearly destroyed. So it spent a year getting repaired, and this fountain, it was named for Lieutenant Max Wagner of Nantucket, who died of gunshot wounds he received fighting with the 26th Massachusetts Regiment in the Philippines during the Spanish-American War. I only knew it as a beautiful fountain, but when I wrote my 3rd book, which was In My Footsteps, A Traveler's Guide to Nantucket, I had to learn the appropriate name to put it in the book, and that's where I learned about Max Wagner. Not too far from the fountain at 16 Main Street is the beloved Gardener's Corner Compass Rose. It's a mural with directions to all these cities from where you're standing, London, Paris, etc. It's a neat little spot to check out and just see where you are in the world. And when you're walking from the ferry, there are several wharves with a lot of boats that are really cool to just check out. The Nantucket Boat Basin is a really popular marina located right there in Nantucket Harbor. It's the premier luxury destination for the sailors and yacht captains. There's 240 boat slips, so a lot of times you can see some really cool boats there. Being an island, naturally there's beaches that just surround you wherever you are. And from downtown, when you get off the ferry, you can walk to Jetties Beach, which is about a mile walk north from where the ferry docks. It's called Jetties Beach because there's a super long rock jetty that sticks out about 3/4 of a mile out into the water. If you want beaches, though, you've got to go. It's also about a mile walk from the ferry, but it's a little bit east of Jetties Beach, and that's Steps Beach. It's probably in my top 5 favorite places on the island. It's difficult to find parking per se to get to it. There's a bike rack at the head of the trail that leads you to it, but 23 Lincoln Avenue is basically where you would go. Steps Beach, I guess it gets the name because of the steps that you got to take to get down to the beach, but at the top of those stairs, the view is incredible. You look over and you can see Nantucket Sound, and to the right, there's this really cool dune shack. It's a place that I was lucky enough to see the sunset at once, and it's just incredible. So I highly recommend that. Definitely take a bike when you go there. Nantucket's not that big where you can't see all of the island on a bike. But if you do bring your car, Nantucket doesn't have any street lights on the island. It just adds to that vibe, like you've gone back in time to a whaling port. And speaking of the whaling port, you've got to check out the Nantucket Whaling Museum at 13 Broad Street. That's a day in itself. If you go over there for a day trip, it's going to be difficult to really see all Nantucket has to offer. I would definitely recommend staying overnight. I've done it before. If you're going to go, there's a lot of hotels, resorts, bed and breakfasts over there. The top one is the White Elephant at 50 Easton Street. That's luxury accommodations, but it actually started as rustic cottages. And since the 1920s, it's been one of the most sought-after hotels. It's basically steps from Brandt Point Lighthouse. Even now, as I'm describing just the downtown area of Nantucket, I'm realizing all these places that I want to include and tell you to go see. Mitchell's Book Corner at 54 Main Street. I did a book signing there for my Nantucket book, and it was awesome. I sat out on the sidewalk with my books, and it was a late summer day, people walking by, and it was the best. Except for the lady that came up to me and saw my last name, Setterlund, and she was Swedish, and she started speaking Swedish to me, and I just looked at her like she had 3 heads, and then she said, "You're Swedish, right? You speak Swedish?" No, I don't. At 16 Sunset Hill is the Jethro Coffin House, which is also known as the oldest house, because it's the oldest house still standing on the island. It was built in 1686. Nantucket was originally home to the Wampanoag tribe of Native Americans. In 1659, a group of settlers arrived, including members of the Macy and Coffin family, and that's how Nantucket was born. If you go over there and you stay for a while, stay at the White Elephant or the Nantucket Hotel or the Periwinkle, which I stayed at, the bed and breakfast, you got to eat. Go to LoLa 41 at 15 South Beach Street. The 41 is from the 41st parallel on the map, and their decor and atmosphere, food and drinks all are based around that 41st parallel. It was opened in 2006. Before that, it was the Bluefin restaurant. There's also a LoLa 41 in Palm Beach, Florida, and LoLa 42 in Boston. But above all else, if you go to Nantucket, it's good to have a plan of things to see, but just explore. There's so much to see just in downtown. I can't recommend it enough. Go eat at Something Natural, the sandwich shop at 50 Cliff Road, just a walk from the Jethro Coffin House. Check out the Nantucket Lightship Basket Museum at 49 Union Street. Check out the First Congregational Church at 62 Center Street. It's beautiful inside, but if you can get a chance to get up into the tower, it's got this incredible view of downtown. That's the big selling point. It's a throwback island. Everything you could want is there. You feel like you're far away from everything, including the 21st century. But just go. Visit Nantucket. I can't wait to get back over there this summer. It's a place so nice that it became my 3rd book that I ever wrote. I'm very proud of that. In My Footsteps, A Traveler's Guide to Nantucket through Schiffer Publishing. I'll put a link in the description of the podcast in case you want to check it out. It's got all these places listed, and they go kind of in an order that you would get off the ferry and go north, and you would do a circle around the island. So I tried to take the guesswork out. All these places I mentioned are all in there. But as we go forward, like I said, there'll be 2 more parts to Nantucket Island. The second part will be the outer villages of Sconset and Mattocket. And then probably the third one will just be everything that I missed, because I know I will. I know I've missed stuff already now. Tune in again next time for another road trip. We will find another amazing place in these 6 New England states that you've got to go and check out. And I will give you all you need to know to go there.